Thanks for staying with us. Now, the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association is tonight facing off with government officials following claims he endorsed the controversial medical drone project. Dr. Justice Yangson says government never consulted him on the project. This comes after Deputy Information Minister Pius Hajide at a news conference Wednesday morning stated that Dr. Yangson fully supported the drone system when he met the Vice President earlier this year at a health summit. According to him, government is shocked. The Ghana Medical Association is insisting it was not consulted on the implementation of the drone delivery health system. Nancy Emefa Dradosi has more.
The implementation of the newly approved drone health delivery system is soaked in controversy. The Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists kicked against the implementation of the drone system, stating that they were not consulted. Barely an hour after Parliament approved the drone service on Tuesday, the Ghana Medical Association GMA also waded in, stating they were also not consulted. The GMA insisted the services to be provided by the drones do not conform to the existing primary healthcare policy in the country, adding that the use of the drones without the necessary improvement in human resource capacity will not benefit the country. But addressing journalists at a bi-weekly meeting with the press in Accra earlier today, Deputy Minister of Information Pius Hajide said the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Yangson, gave government the association's blessing for the rollout of the drone system.
At the 2018 Annual Health Summit in Accra, the Vice President Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia announced to the Ghana Medical Association government's intention to roll out the project as part of efforts to ensure effective healthcare delivery. The Ghana Medical Association welcomed the decision by government, and to quote the General Secretary of the GMA, Dr. Justice Yangson's reaction to the announcement, and I quote, "Well, as for us as an association, on countless occasions, we have bemoaned the state of emergency medical service in the country. So, if efforts are being made by the government to ensure that we strengthen that sector, we strengthen that aspect of our healthcare delivery, then we say kudos. Government is therefore taken aback at the current position of the GMA when it says, and I quote, the proposed services to be provided by the drones do not conform to the primary healthcare policy in Ghana."
He also noted government can only give clarity to various stakeholders who do not understand the drone health delivery service but will not suspend it.
Once the Parliament of Ghana has passed the deal, it is now binding. We are grateful to Parliament for that. It is now binding, and we expect that in the shortest possible time, implementation will commence. Government is, however, willing and ready to engage with any stakeholder who seeks to engage with a view to giving clarity on the matters on which they may lack understanding and clarity.
Government also called for support from all stakeholders in the implementation of the service. Nancy Emefa Dradosi, JoyNews.
But in a sharp rebuttal, the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Justice Yangson, says government has never engaged him on implementation of the medical drone system.
Told you loud and clear that I wasn't there, the GMA wasn't there. You know what? Not just the heading. He should read the entire content. Because in his statement today, he never mentioned ambulances and what have you. He's saying same, yes. Here, today he mentioned 275 ambulances and all that. At the time, the question to me was that, look, government says that they are going to do various things to improve the emergency medical services. And I said that, yes, if as an association we've bemoaned this over a long period, and government says that they are going to put in certain measures, that is welcome, that is fine. Like I said to you, The reporter, this was in April, when this drone business hadn't even come into the picture, talks about efforts that government wants to. It wasn't part of the conversation. But even, no, what I'm saying that, even if we spoke about the use of ICT and all that, these are standard things that happen the world over. Use of ICT to improve medical services. So I was looking at the collective, and you can see from the statement, my words are very clear. My references are very clear. The fundamental question is, did the collective include? No, I didn't even mention drones. Okay.
Now, former President John Agyekum Kufuor has lauded the work of the judiciary in the country, describing the third arm of government as one of the most independent in Africa. According to him, the tendency by political parties to resort to the law courts to challenge election results is proof of how robust the judiciary is. His comments come as retired Supreme Court Judge Justice William Atubguba has been defending the court's famous 2013 election petition judgment that endorsed then-President John Dramani Mahama's victory in the 2012 poll, saying the panel reflected or relied on divine guidance. He spoke at the Advent Lecture Series organized by the Catholic Church in Accra.
That election petition was decided through prayer by the panel. Well, not young people. I'm 70 years old, not a young man. That's why I retired. Some were older, but nobody broke down throughout the 8 months of that trial, long hours of sitting. And when the decision came, there was peace, total peace in the country. As for the vilifications, they are unending and sometimes most painful. You can't believe that some human beings are capable of diabolical behavior. I looked at this way. This was a very hot issue that rocked this country. By the grace of God, He answered our prayers and things have done coolly. So why don't I sacrifice my personal interest for the continuity of the peace? So I left. Not that it's not painful. God redresses evils in His own time. Apart from political challenges in the cases I sat on, there were other challenges. You can't believe that some people will even dare trying to induce even Supreme Court judges with money to decide cases in their favor.
So that's Supreme Court Judge Justice William Atubguba. Well, earlier Wednesday, addressing participants at a forum in Accra, former President Kufuor said the judiciary must be commended.
My friends, I'm very proud to say that the rule of law is deeply being entrenched in our country, for which we should all be extremely gratified. And need I remind you, in the year 2012, the governing party, the then governing party, had the election of its presidential candidates, who was the incumbent president, challenged in the Supreme Court of many political observers around the world. Seeking legal redress in the judicial system of Ghana, when one feels legally injured, gives a lot of confidence to both foreign and domestic investors. Mr. Chairman, since the advent of constitutional rule in January 1993, Ghana has held successful and peaceful elections every 4 years. As I alluded to above, where a losing side was not comfortable with the conduct of the election in 2012, it exercised its constitutional right to resort to the court system for redress. This, I believe, is...
Well, the former president has also been speaking about measures to address corruption in the country by successive governments. He welcomed the establishment of the Special Prosecutor's Office, but urged caution in the passage of the RTI bill.
Since the inception of the Fourth Republic, advocates have consistently called on all governments to pass a right to information bill, and this bill is still before Parliament. Unfortunately, till date, successive governments have been grappling with passing this bill. The real challenge is not governments refusing to pass the bill. I don't think so. But the text of the bill, the content of the bill, has not been revisited enough to offer guarantees to information that are of security and stability concerns to the integrity of the nation itself. We must look at the security and stability aspects of the bill. This bill must be passed to help achieve better governance, yes, but it must not be at the cost of security and stability of the nation. It is obvious that government not passing the RTI frustrates the fight against corruption, and civil society groups are up in arms for the lack of passage, and they are entitled, they are right to protest.
So you heard the former President Kufuor alluding to the RTI bill, whose passage has dragged for many years. Well, Chairman of Parliament's Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee, Ben Abdallah, is cautioning the public against continuous piling of pressure on the House to pass the bill into law. He is warning, he warned if Parliament gives in to the pressure, the House may end up passing a defective law that will be difficult to correct going forward. It will be recalled that previous deadlines to get the bill passed before November 15th have not been met. The House today spent time considering amendments to the bill. Mr. Abdallah says the House is committed to passing the bill.
You know, consideration of bills takes a lot of time because it is a painstaking exercise. That is where you can make and omit the laws. So if you don't take your time, and because the pressure seems to be coming from all corners of the society, and you decide to rush the bill into a law, you may end up making a lot of mistakes which cannot be corrected until the whole law is holistically reviewed or amended.
So the public has to be cautious with the pressure
no,
that comes.
Parliament has to be cautious, and the public has to be cautious. We all do understand that the right to information bill, the passage of it is long overdue. Yes, we have to speed up the process, but we have to speed up the process with a lot of accuracy and meticulousness. That is very important. If you don't do that and you get yourself crumbled under the pressure, you end up coming up with a law which is bedeviled or deplete with a lot of defects.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsin. Now we're taking a short break, but still ahead, Gandhi must fall. Finally, Gandhi has fallen. Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana confirms the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has relocated the controversial Gandhi statue branded by local activists as representing a racist identity. And later, Christmas is almost here and you may have a wish. Well, we'll tell you what a 6-year-old boy who suffered a terrible accident wants for Christmas.
If you had one wish to make, what would that wish be?
That wish must be to have another leg.
Details of that coming up later on in the bulletin. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. Now, police in the northern region are investigating social media accounts seeking to cause confusion less than 24 hours to the funeral rites of the late Dagman overlords. Northern Regional Police Public Relations Officer DSP Yusuf Tanko tells Joy News they have intercepted false audio clips promoting division and expressing the intent to mar the burial ceremony. The parties ensuring the burial of the two late chiefs have already pledged their support for for the process. Shortly, we will hear from the police, but first listen to security analyst Dr. Kwesi Enning, who is asking government to go all out to ensure that there is peace during and after the funeral. He spoke on PM Express earlier.
When you put that signature on that document, it doesn't mean you've resolved all the outstanding issues. No.
Okay.
All it says is that, look, this is a framework within which we can work to achieve that concept of lasting peace. Okay. So I am not particularly taken aback by what we are seeing, but precisely because of two crucial issues. One is the emotive issue. This crisis is driven by multiple interests and perceptions, but the issue of the emotions underpinning the way different stakeholders react, the ability to contain those emotions, otherwise they begin to have some security implications. And from the Guardian article, and I'm sure quite a number of other international newspapers are writing, other intelligence agencies are assessing the threat, because this goes beyond just Dagbon. It's about whether we are secure enough for people to invest here, whether our intelligence and security forces have understood the threat and can prevent it from escalating.
Now, Principal Programmer of the Northern Regional Peace Council, Nuhu Abukari, says they have intensified engagement with key stakeholders to adhere to the roadmap by the Otumfuo-led Committee of Eminent Chiefs. He, however, urged the responsible use of social media ahead of the funeral rites.
The Council has been undertaking several preventive engagements involving the key leaders from the two sides, trying to ensure that two leaders respect the corridors of the roadmap and live and operate within the confines of the agreement. We are also taking steps to find out and then call on all stakeholders, including RESEC, to make sure that they encourage and ensure compliance in respect with what was agreed at Menchia. And the Council has also taken the pain to speak to youth within Dagbon and beyond, encouraging them, telling them not to use social media platforms to cause any threat or infuriate any process, but stay as they use the platforms as mechanisms for promoting peace within the country. We have also continued to talk and appeal to youth within the two sides not to take any advantage in insinuating or disrespecting any chief who perhaps is perceived to be a former, shall I say, enemy to their own side. The funeral process is actually purely a traditional process requiring chiefs from both sides to take up roles and perform roles that legitimizes the funeral performance, and we are encouraging the leaders to call on their own supporters, and we are also meeting group leaders and meeting youth groups.
We can now hear from Northern Regional Police PRO DSP Yusuf Tanko, who's been outlining security arrangements ahead of the event, including night patrols and mounting snap checks.
Arrangements will be instituted. We need to erect snap checkpoints at the entrances of Yendi. We also will have to conduct mobile and vehicular patrols, some vehicular and foot patrols. We will also do 9 patrols, and at the funeral ground itself, we will station enough men there to be able to control the teeming crowd that will be coming. We will have places where ordinary persons will not be allowed to access, and those places will have to be guarded by our men to prevent people who are not supposed to be there from accessing those places. So arrangements have been done day in, day out. We'll brief our men on exactly what they should do.
This may be new to many residents, and one may wonder why has it become necessary.
This is a very huge funeral. The whole of Dagbon, there are 2 overlords who are late. They are going to have funerals for them. And a lot of people will troop to the funeral ground. Even spectators, people who want to see how Yana funerals are done, will also be there to witness it. So it is important that we get enough men to be able to control the teeming population that will be trooping to the funeral ground.
Whilst you are working on the ground, what's the strategy to deal with individuals who seek to use social media to cause trouble?
As we speak, there are investigations ongoing on some tapes and voices or audio voices that or audio which we have intercepted and which contain messages that does not promote peace as far as the funeral performances are concerned. Those investigations are being conducted.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. I'm Arba Kumsin. We're taking a short break for business, but still ahead, Gandhi must fall, and finally, he has fallen. Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana confirms the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has relocated the controversial Gandhi statue, branded by local activists as representing a racist identity. And later on in the bulletin, Christmas is almost here, and you may have a wish. Well, we'll tell you what a young boy, 6-year-old boy, who suffered a terrible accident wants for Christmas.
If you had one wish to make, what would that wish be?
That wish must be to have another leg.
Stay with us for the details coming up much later, but after the break, business is up next. You're welcome back. Now, Gandhi must fall was the chant 2 years ago. Finally, Gandhi has fallen. The controversial statue of renowned Indian political and civil rights leader Mahatma Gandhi has been removed from the campus of the University of Ghana. Some students and lecturers of the university had called for the removal of the statue because of what they call his racist identity. An online petition was launched after some students had earlier defaced the statue in protest. The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Oduro-Owusu, tells JoyNews the Ministry of Foreign Affairs requested to relocate the sculpture. Emmanuel Jivenu was at the University of Ghana and now reports.
I'm currently here at the University of Ghana, specifically just behind the Baum Library, where the statue of Indian independence fighter Mahatma Gandhi was erected. But today, individuals from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are told, came in to pull it down. The structure was put here sometime in June 2016 when the current president of India visited Ghana. This was to cement the bilateral relationship between India and Ghana. But soon after it was erected here, there were some movements called the Gandhi Must Fall who agitated for the statue to be taken off. Their concern was that Mahatma Gandhi was a racist and never stood for the ideals of the African man. According to the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Oduro-Owusu, personnel from the ministry visited the university and spoke to the registrar about their consideration to move the facility from the campus of the University of Ghana. And this morning, true to that, the structure has been taken off. I've been speaking to one of the lead advocates for the hashtag Gandhi Must Fall movement in the person of Dr. Obadele Kambon. He said he's excited the facility has been taken off and would urge government never to put the structure anywhere on the campus or on any parts of the country.
I've been saying congratulations, we're so happy it's gone, and people were not consulted in general. So this was something that was done by the higher ups. We won't say any names, but we know who they are. And they decided to just place a statue because I'm sure that they were under the same impression of most of the world, where if you go to a Martin Luther King memorial, you'll see Gandhi there. If you go to Senegal, you'll see Gandhi. They put these statues, South Africa, they put these statues all over, and it literally depends on ignorance for anyone to accept the statue. For us as as black people, we have to have black dignity. We have to have black self-respect. If you say that, oh, my plate is nothing but a rubbish bin, then the whole world will collect rubbish in it. But when you say my plate is a wonderful plate, then people are willing to eat off of it. I don't think it's done because I know that they have many more statues there as they're trying to push in soft power, the Kumkum Baja, all of these things that we're seeing, the Confucius Institute from China. Everyone is trying to get a foothold here in Africa. So I don't think it's done.
Well, I've been speaking to some of the students who also expressed varied opinions about the structure that has been taken off.
Although I recognize that Gandhi was involved in a very racially stimulated manner, I also understand that he has his good side. So although I get the point that others were making that this shouldn't have been here in the first place, in general, it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, I'm excited Mahatma Gandhi's structure has been taken off campus because he was a racist and he was against Africans. So we putting up his structure is like backing up his idea of racism.
Excited because I've heard a lot of things about him concerning he being racist and he not liking blacks and among other things. And then so for him to have a statue in our university here is a very, very big concern to we the students who are aspiring to take Africa to a higher heights. And then seeing the fact that he being a racist and then he being here, a statue being here, which means people will look up to him and stuff. And then somebody being a racist, we as black people, we shouldn't look up to him. So that's why I think his statue being off is a very, very good example for we the students of University of Ghana.
Now, the minority in Parliament is raising red flags over the Ministry of Sanitation's decision to allocate 18,700 cedis in its 2019 budget for entertainment allowance. They're also questioning why another 18,000 cedis will be spent on clothing allowance, whilst almost 100,000 cedis will be spent on recruiting security persons. The ministry today approved the budget of the ministry. Parliament today approved the budget of the ministry with concerns about budget cuts. Ranking member on Parliament's Water Resources, Works and Housing Committee, Samson Ayi, says the ministry is not making judicious use of their meager resources.
They have stated that they are going to recruit, that is enlistment into security, and that they are spending 81,000 Ghana cedis. And I don't know the sort of security enlistment that they are going to do. And so I think the minister should look at it. Entertainment allowance, 18,000. Domestic servant allowance. Mr. Speaker, motor vehicle, 716,000. Computers and accessories, 100,000. Office equipment, 110,000. Under 8, we have another motor vehicle, 230,000, Mr. Speaker. And then, so I think the ministry must look at the way they manage the meager resources that they have. Because if you have, for instance, watchman allowance, under 8 you have watchman extra days allowance. You have watchman allowance, and then under 8 you have watchman extra day allowance. What is it? Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Ahi tells JoyNews the allocation is meant for the comfort of the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources.
Whatever resources you are given, you use it judiciously. But what do we see? We are giving money to the minister and the ministers as entertainment allowance. We have watchman allowance. Then you have extra watchman allowance. As if that person who is engaged as a watchman, you are going to engage another person. You have clothing allowance, and so on and so forth.
Isn't this common with the entire public service?
No.
People take entertainment allowance, people take clothing allowance.
When I was there, I was never given a clothing allowance. I never saw it.
An entertainment allowance?
Entertainment to do what? What form of entertainment?
We are told this is for the entire ministry, not necessarily for the minister in particular. Are you reading it differently in terms of who will benefit from all of these?
I'm saying that we don't need to provide money to the minister to entertain he or herself.
So for you, this money is for the minister? Because the chairman
indicated it's for the minister.
Well, but Chairman of Parliament's Water Resources, Works and Housing Committee, Nana Amwako, says the allocation for entertainment is meant for the entire ministry and not necessarily for the minister alone.
I'm more interested in entertainment, the trivials of what goes on in the parliamentary settings. But that's not, because if somebody is doing entertainment, it's a yearly thing. You see, when they call entertainment, it's not just anything at all. You could go to a workshop and you could spend some money. Yes, you could get a lot of people together and you could also do a lot of things. So when you say somebody is spending a certain amount of money, you have to look at that. How much, what are they doing with that particular money? It's not just one instant they go and spend 18,000 for entertainment. It's the whole year process.
So you heard the back and forth there between the ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee as well as the current chairman of the Works and Housing Committee in Parliament, defending that allocation by the ministry. Now, so recruitment or enlistment into security, that is 81,910 cedis. So for watchman allowance, that will be 36,673. That's how much is going to be paid for watchman allowance. Clothing allowance, 18,768. Domestic servants allowance, 31,488 cedis will be expended. All this at the cost to the taxpayer. Moving on, former Youth and Sports Minister Elvis Ifriankra has warned Ghana will soon be hit by major youth uprising if political parties do not minimize the influence of money in the internal elections. He made this comment at a roundtable discussion held Wednesday by the Institute of Democratic Governance on how to regulate and fund political parties in the country.
There is danger ahead. Danger. And you are in a country where you have graduate unemployment. Dr. Kwete talked about it. If you go around town and you listen to the vibes, it's not very comfortable. And you say, oh, well, if people are not happy, I should be happy because after all, I belong to the NDC. So if they are not happy. But if you listen carefully, they are not happy with the government, but then they say, all of you are not correct. You are all the same. So there is danger. And if you look at graduate unemployment, all these SHS graduates, general unemployment, hardship, you saw what happened at KNUST, you saw what happened at Adenta, the power of social media, easy access to information or misinformation, and the ability to mobilize large numbers of people within a very short time. We need to be very careful. And so when people in the midst of all that see us spending so much money, yes, there are legitimate uses of the money, but when they see us engaging like this, talking to ourselves, finding ways by which we can minimize the influence of money, it gives them confidence that, okay, these people are thinking about us, they think about our welfare. But if we continue business as usual, I mean, it's not looking good. One day. So as people of conscience, can we continue spending such humongous amount of money, politicking both internally and externally, when the socio-economic conditions of our people are still very daunting? If we do not voluntarily, but urgently engage in reforms, we may experience a serious backlash from the populace in the not too distant future. All parties must make the subject of review of the regulatory framework of financing political parties part of the agenda in their 2020 manifestos.
Well, speaking further, he explained there are very genuine ways political parties are funded, but the way in which it is done creates room for corruption. According to him, he finds it difficult dealing with the rot at JIDA since most of the people involved were party financiers.
Of youth and sports, and I was confronted with JIDA. Now, JIDA was started by the previous government, NPP, it was NYEP, and the way it was started as a pilot program, so there were no proper institutions in place. The systems were not in place, and it was virtually a free-for-all. We came to power, we expanded it, and people took advantage of the weaknesses in the system. So by the time I took office, it was virtually a mess, and the president said, clean it up. So with characteristic zeal, I also started, clean up. Hey, that was when my problem started. It wasn't easy. And it was a very awkward, difficult situation because most of the service provided were people that I knew personally, and there were people that had supported us, and I know they support both sides. And so you have a situation where you have gone to take money from the person to run your campaign, and then you come back and say you are now investigating the person, canceling his contracts, and it was very, very, very difficult. So I started asking myself questions. I mean, what is it that we can do that, because the average businessman would rather put his 5 million or 10 million back into his business to expand. But we go to them and put pressure on them. We need money, we need money. And indeed, we do need money. And then afterwards, when we take the money from them, they are business people, they are not charities. So they have to recoup their money. And when they now do things and then we now turn back and say we are investigating them, then what are we doing? Are we deceiving ourselves? So for me, you've heard about Bost. An MP was very honest and frank. He said the Bost man cannot be sacked because he contributed heavily to the campaign. These are realities. We all know of the various case studies. This is not a forum for me to be giving examples, but I just gave 2 examples covering the tenets of both parties for us to have an idea of the kind of practical challenges that we face. And so anytime you see any hundious, controversial, seemingly questionable contract, and I'm saying seemingly, look closely, and you are most likely to see a major political party financier behind it.
Now, it's almost Christmas, that time of the year when children often make their wish list of things they would like their parents to buy for them. You would mostly hear items like, toys, clothes, shoes, bags, toffees, and the like. But that's not the case for 6-year-old Jeremiah Arthur, who has a peculiar wish. He wants a new leg. 2.5 years ago, Jeremiah was hit by a vehicle driven by a 63-year-old woman who veered off the road and entered the Garrison Basic School in Takoradi, crushing the boy against the wall. When it was all over, the boy's leg was found lying under the vehicle. In this week's JoyNews Hotline documentary, Manasseh Azuriawene traces the accident and reveals the difficulty Jerry and his family are going through.
The accident occurred on the 2nd of June 2016 at around 14:30 hours in this very platform here. This platform happens to be our assembly ground. And after school, most of the time, the children will be gathered here, a teacher will be detailed to be with them, and parents will come with their vehicles to pick the children in tents. So on that set date, the children were actually many. But few minutes before the accident, parents had come almost in convoy to carry their children away, leaving back 3 children and the teacher. A saloon car, a Toyota saloon car, came from this direction. Excuse me.
And there's actually a slope.
Yes, this direction. The driver was a woman. She actually got her way all right. Came and joined the main route. Let me show you here.
This is the main road.
This is the main route that is leading to Beach Road Township. So she got here, turn right.
This way?
This way. She got her turning all right. Then few meters, precisely here. What happened? She veered off again. Turning 90 degrees this way and jump over this big gutter.
Big gutter.
But then this fence wall wasn't there.
Okay.
She jumped off this gutter and climbed onto the platform. Okay. Let me show you what happened exactly. So the 3 remaining children and the teacher realized that it was danger after she climbed the square. Okay. So they all took to their heels. They were running, and they set Jeremiah Atta, who got here. There was one course on this.
Okay, that's
Jeremiah Atta, yes, Jeremiah Atta got here, and 1 foot in, 1 foot was still hanging, and the car hit the hanging foot against the wall. The car hit the hanging leg against the wall, and I suspect the woman was stepping on accelerator thinking it was brake, so there was more pressure. Eventually it cannot push this very wall, so the leg was still in between the wall and the car until the leg auto chopped off.
So we took him to a new school, which is the naval-based basic school. With some level of considerations, that school was quite close to their home. Secondly, the headmistress, who was at Garrison Basic School where the incident occurred, had also been relocated to this new school, and we thought that she understands the boy's situation better and should be in a better position to be able to manage his condition.
The main reason Jerry was transferred to Naval Basic School has to do with a problem every person living with physical disability in Ghana is very familiar with. At Garrison Basic School, it is impossible to move to the classroom in a wheelchair. Jerry has 2 wheelchairs, one at home and another in school. The one in school aids his movement and serves as his chair in the classroom. Naval Basic School better accommodates Jerry's situation, but it cannot be said to be disability friendly either. His wheelchair can only move to one classroom unimpeded. To make this possible, the school even had to construct a special ramp at the entrance of this classroom.
I moved the class up there so that when the car brings into school, they can easily access the classroom. The decision is that so long as he remains in this school, that class has to be on that block.
He can't play with his friends, and let alone, so the road is not good. So even with a wheelchair, he can't move around the compound. And one challenge I've also realized is when he wants to use the washroom, because looking at where the class is and where the toilet facility is, it's very far. Last time I have to carry him to the giant, which is very bad. So I think if there is any, like the people come in aid to support and this one, which should be close to the class where he can easily go whenever he feels to ease himself.
Jeremiah Arthur is one of the many victims who have had the course of their lives altered in a very cruel way. According to reported figures available at the National Road Safety Commission, more than 18,000 persons have been killed in motor accidents in the last 10 years. And like Jerry, over 66,000 persons sustained serious injuries within the same period. Behind these abstract numbers are real lives that have been destroyed or maimed, leaving behind hearts pricked with pain too devastating to forget or soothe.
Sad story there. Now on the telephone line is Professor Kwejo Epije Echia. He's a human rights law lecturer at the University of Ghana. He joins us on the line. Good evening and many thanks for your time, sir. The state took the woman to court and eventually fined her 1,800 cedis. The money went to the state. So is there any legal remedy for Jeremiah for him to be compensated?
Good evening and thanks for having me on the program. This is a sad tale. I think that the criminal law approach to dealing with the problem didn't favor Jeremiah. I think on the face of it, the court should have adopted a victim-oriented approach, whereby the money that was the fine that was placed on the woman to pay should have gone to Jeremiah, or there should have been a larger amount that Jeremiah should have benefited from. So in that respect, the criminal law approach to dealing with the problem has not helped the victim in any way. And so the other option available is to sue to do a civil suit, in which case the main focus will be on compensation. I think there also has the option, the parent or whoever will be interested in pursuing the case, also has the option of looking at applying to the Human Rights Court as a human rights issue for him to get compensation.
All right, many thanks. That's Professor Kojo Epeje Echia. He's a human rights law lecturer at the University of Ghana, offering some options for Jeremiah's parents to take up. You're still watching JoyNews Prime with me, Araba Kumsin.